Hello and welcome to another weekly update. And we are very close to Ignite. So just as a reminder, Ignite is later on in September. It's the 25th to 29th of September in Orlando, Florida. And as we get into the final few weeks before Ignite lands, obviously we're seeing a number of rumours and a large amount of speculation and guesswork around, what's coming down the line. I'm not going to kind of comment on any of that. I think it makes more sense to wait until any announcements have been announced, because I think with the rumours and the rumour mill, you only kind of get half the picture and it's easy to jump to the wrong conclusions. So I will wait for the official announcements and wait to hear from the people understand where that fits in the bigger scheme of things, and then we could talk about it. I think it's likely that there's going to be some big announcements all across the board for Office 365, for Office, for all that kind of stack, and that includes Skype for Business and it includes Microsoft Teams. So yes, I'm sure there will be announcements. I'm sure there'll be exciting, interesting stuff to talk about, and I will be talking about it, but I will talk about it after it's been announced. So in the kind of the lead up to that, again, like I said last week, I think it's we're starting to see kind of announcements quieten down a little bit, and kind of releases and stuff being held. So it's generally kind of a bit of a slowdown. I'm going to carry on talking about development, so expect more blog posts from me about that kind of through the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, there's been some stuff going on. There's been some interesting things to look at and to point you to. And the first of those is a new resource from Microsoft for developers on Microsoft Teams, and it's a Word document. It's kind of like an overview, like Word document for how to get started with Microsoft Teams. It's like a very high level 100 style. These are some of the things you can do in Teams that you couldn't do previously or you couldn't do in other applications. Here are some new ways of creating products. Here are some new ways of interacting with customers. So that's really useful. It's good if you're coming to this for the first time. It's good to have that and to be able to quickly glance over it and see. I don't really know why it's in a Word document. Maybe because this is forming some kind of marketing package or release package, for developers. So maybe they did it into Word because that prints better, and maybe they're going to print it out and give it out at Ignite on the stand or something. Who knows? It's good information anyway, regardless of what format it shows up in. So that's good to have. That's interesting information. It's always useful to get that kind of stuff from Microsoft as well, because it kind of shows it shows they think it's important. It's important for developers to really understand the things you can do in Teams, because Teams is very powerful, but the development story is also very powerful. So being able to create applications on top of Teams is really enhances its capabilities, if you like. And I've talked about that before. Teams is that it's the center of your world. You bring your information into Teams, and that's how you do that collaboration. And all the kind of communication tools within Teams, you can see the data and the information that's important to you, and you can use that with other people and collaborate with other people. So that's that. So some information that actually has nothing to do with Skype for Business or Teams, but will probably affect you if you're a developer, because if you're like me, you are interested in the new and the shiny and wanting to have the very latest and the cutting edge of things. So that extends to Windows and to Office. And so there've been some changes to the names given to those releases of Office that applied. So previously there were a couple of different, or they call them rings. So Microsoft called them rings. So if you imagine a concentric circle like a target, right in the center of the bullseye of that target is your development team at Microsoft, if you like, making changes, pushing them out, and that's the kind of they will always have obviously the very latest. They are committing those code changes. They are adding features. They are writing code. They are checking them in, having them built. The builds that those guys have are going to be the very latest and greatest, and we will never see those builds. They obviously then go through testing and all these kind of things, and release management, and that's where you sort of start to go out from the target a little bit. So you'll have, if you imagine the next ring, and that will be maybe your quality assurance or your product managers, some very early to see that stuff as it's being built and as it's being baked in. Eventually, as you kind of build out these rings, you'll get to a point where you start to involve people from outside Microsoft, and that's where you get these kind of NDA rings, and you have these various different rings of software, and then you get to what's called insider fast, and essentially the public facing names, if you like, for these rings are fast and slow. So you have insider fast, you have insider slow, and then once you get outside of insider slow, you're into sort of GA, MSI builds, click to run, all that kind of stuff, and they have a much slower cadence because, for instance, if you go down the MSI route and you're responsible for installing Office on hundreds of thousands of machines, you don't want them updating themselves. You don't want new builds every 2 minutes. You want new builds every 2 years. So they have a much slower the cadence. Anyway, the names are slightly changing. So Insider Fast is becoming just Insider, and Insider Slow is changing its name to Monthly Channel Targeted. So targeted is in brackets, so monthly channel. And that gives you kind of a clue, actually. It's interesting that they're using a date construct in the name of their ring. So they've changed the name of their ring from Insider Slow to Monthly Channel. And that sort of puts them on the hook a little bit to delivering every month, which is interesting. And maybe it's not a problem. Maybe they won't deliver every month. Maybe it's just a nice name. But it's an odd choice to kind of constrain yourself, if you like, in the naming of your cadence to kind of tie it into a particular period of time. So I thought that was a bit strange, but anyway, Insider, you will see those change. The Insider levels change those names. So those are kind of what they're for. So an Insider, the old fast ring. So that's earliest preview stuff. It's, it'll have additional diagnostics and telemetry. It'll be sending information about how you're using it back to Microsoft. You will almost certainly come across weirdness and bugs, maybe some reliability things. If you wait and you go on the other ring, so the monthly channel, the old slow ring, then again you'll still get diagnostics, the telemetry and stuff will still get sent back, but you'll be fully supported. That's the kind of one of the big differences. You'll be fully supported in the things that you're doing, so it's much less likely to go wrong. All right. The other thing was other kind of blog post on, and it's about the audit log that Teams makes available to administrators. So as part of Office 365, you can use via the admin portal and the Security and Compliance Center. So in the admin portal, if you go to the Security and Compliance Admin Center and then go to Search and then go to Audit Log Search, the audit log is as you might imagine, it's a massive list, an audit log of all the things that are happening across Office 365 of users accessing and doing particular things. And Microsoft Teams is in that mix. So things that people do in Teams show up in that Office audit log. Not everything they do, but certain things they do. So things like if users delete a team, that will be in the audit log. If they create a team, same with channels. If they change some settings, they add things like bots or tabs or connectors or remove them, either way, all that gets logged in the audit log. Now, it's worth mentioning, by default, the audit log is disabled in your tenant. So you do need to go and turn this on and say you want to start recording user activity if you want to take advantage of this. But once you've done that, you can then go and search. It might take, apparently it can take a while. It can take up to 24 hours before an action shows up in the audit search results. But it's good if you need to have an audit trail of things that are happening across your estate. You can enable it in PowerShell as well. If you look for the set admin audit log config command, then that's how you can set it. And so you get that information in the audit log. You get quite a lot of information actually about some specific, IDs about the team they're in, the channel they're in, and them and their key, and all this kind of. It's what you might expect from an audit log. So you can do it by a particular person, or you can just search for specific events that you're looking for. So it's useful and good that stuff. That Microsoft Teams is in the audit log, because obviously it's a relatively new product, so it's good to see it in there. It's surprising that, say, Skype for Business isn't in that audit log. There's actually quite a lot of Office that's not in that audit log, so SharePoint is, OneDrive is, and Exchange activities are, but lots of there's nothing in Office really. I guess it's not really an audit action if you're doing something in Word. I mean, where do you stop, right? I think sharing folders is in there, some BI, but no Skype for Business stuff yet. Okay, so that's the audit log, and that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. Just a quick reminder about Ignite again. So a couple of weeks' time, so end of September, so 25th to 29th. Expect a number of announcements across the board. I mean, not just Skype for Business, not just Teams. It'll be Office, it'll be Microsoft, it'll be, it's Microsoft's sort of primary technical show. It's them getting all their people together in one place. There's going to be technical announcements all across the board. If you want to get a really good roundup after the event of what happened at Ignite and you're in the UK, I would recommend UC and Cloud Day 27th October in Birmingham. So go to ucday.co.uk for more information on that. If you are going to Ignite, there's a really good blog post that Ben Lee did, which I forgot to put in my own show notes. So I knew I wanted to talk about it, and I forgot to put it in the show notes. So I'm now just trying to find it because it is definitely worth you knowing about. So let's have a look. All right, so I credited Ben Lee, and that was a mistake. It was Mark Vale. So sorry, Ben. You almost got the credit for something there that was not yours. Mark, apologies. So Mark runs the 365 blog, so 3 in letters and then 65 in numbers .blog. He runs the 365 blog. He's going to be, and he's put together a really good blog post actually about using Teams at Ignite. So he uses Teams to track things like social reactions, so stuff that's going on Twitter, and uses RSS feeds. So he's using, I think, the connectors and stuff to bring in all this information and to basically use Teams as an aggregator of information. And you can do that in Teams using the connectors, because there's an RSS connector, right? So there's an RSS connector and there's a Twitter connector. So if you configure things right, you can set up Teams. So you've got all the information coming in on RSS, you've got all the reaction coming in on Twitter, and Teams is a really nice place to kind of consume all that, because you can set up, dedicated channel. You'll then get mobile access. It will just work on mobile. It will work on desktop. You'll get notifications. all coming into one place. It's a really nice use case actually of using Teams, kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. Definitely recommend going to look at that. I will edit my show notes to put a link to Mark's blog post for that. So that's definitely worth looking at. All right, I am on holiday next week, but I'm going to try and do something next Friday anyway. It might be a bit of a Ignite pre-show, maybe looking at some of the things we might expect to see, or we'll see how the news goes. There might be tons of news to talk about. There might be tons happening. We'll see. I'm not planning on doing any more blog posts apart from I'll do one today. I'm not planning on doing any more blog posts probably through next week. So I will still talk to you though next week. So have a great weekend.